Hey, everybody, it is Greg with the WorkHappy podcast. Thanks for being here. Today, the podcast took a bit of a turn with my friend, Gene. I had all these questions about happiness. How do we work happy? How do we live happy? How do we share happiness? How do we hold each other up? And it just got real. Gene and I met online through mutual friends during the pandemic. And then I was up in his town, up in Kelowna, British Columbia, visiting my father who had a major stroke. He's doing better now. But I'd been in the hospital visiting with him, and it just gets heavy. And Gene was in town. We went for a coffee, had a great conversation. So we followed up with a podcast, real life lessons on how to get to where we're going, obviously, how to be happier, have more joy in our life, more fulfillment, but also what to do if stuff goes sideways. He has a couple of podcasts. Please check them out. Instagram and LinkedIn. But Gene Bernier. But that's it. So please enjoy our conversation on the Work Happy podcast. I appreciate you guys for listening, tuning in. And if you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends. If you didn't like it, don't tell anybody. All right, here it is. Gene Bernier. I hope you said your name, buddy. It's French. I didn't. I'm gonna have to cut this out. All right, here it is. Perfect. Yeah, no, it was great to catch up. Or catch up, meet, whatever it was.
All the above.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of this, and now to be able to do it in person. Sometimes it's grumpy work on the way to working happy.
Yeah, work grumpy, right? You know what? That like your videos inspired me. I just need to sit down and record a 2-minute video and go, yeah, yesterday wasn't work happy.
Yeah.
I'm building this thing and it's taking time and stuff gets in the way, but I'm reminded of good people in my life and reaching out and communicating. You know, happiness isn't the goal, because I don't think you can get happy and just stay happy.
No.
You were happy this morning when you woke up and then you found out news about your sister-in-law. That's not happy.
Yeah.
But you're in the right frame of mind to know what to do when you go through something like this. And you can look at the positives and, oh, okay, we can still be happy even though there's sadness.
Yeah.
In
And I think it's important, like one piece that I know I used to miss a lot is, oh, let's just try to be positive. Let's try to be positive and ignore the negative. But
yeah.
if I flip it around now, it's just like, it's just information. The negative or the positive is how I choose to look at that piece. Is some of this stuff sad? Yeah. And let's not take away from it being sad, but it doesn't also need to be the whole life experience. It's like our life experience is good, bad, beautiful, and ugly. And
Yeah.
pulling all of that together and accepting that it's all here at all the time, that also can be like really moving too. Is like we can be sad. And there's also things to be happy about. And there's also things to find joy for, and
Yeah.
understanding all these different levels of these emotions. Like uh, as I'm hearing myself talk and you
Yeah.
talk about the grumpy work, is I, I hope there's going to be some little characters in the work happy place eventually. Like there's grumpy work, there's sad work, there's happy work, there's joyous work, there's excited work, there's after work. Like what's
Yeah.
all this about? And all of those pieces show up even on my best day. Has also been days that have had like great sadness, and but yet incredible like wins and stuff along those lines too, right? Like it's all there, and it doesn't need to be less or more than any of all of that.
Yeah. And I think the more we strive towards working happy and living happy, it's to where we get fulfillment, right? So we now know what to do when we do get the sad news or we do have a grumpy day. I was talking to a neighbor the other day, and she's stressed at work as well too. And she said, you know what? I started running, and for her, running is the endorphins, right? It's the release
Yeah.
of endorphins. She says I can run, and stuff just falls out of my head. I get to the place where I'm not thinking about anything. And she said before it would be the bottle, because you can do the same thing by having a couple beers and relaxing, but you're no farther ahead. You
No.
put on how many calories
Oh,
and you just spun your wheels, right?
Yeah.
versus going and running. You're getting the fresh air, your body's feeling better, your mind's feeling better, and you're still getting rid of the junk in your head, so to speak.
Oh, 100%. To me, Greg, like I hear that as this place of there's a difference from coping versus dealing with it
Yeah,
and facing it, right? Like coping, I used to be pro hitting the bottle. Like
yeah,
it felt good
yeah,
for a little bit. Like the next day, be like, oh, feel foggy. Be like, what did I
yeah,
say? What did I do? And
yeah,
now all of a sudden, that deck of like things that you have to deal with is like getting bigger and bigger, depending on how you're using those coping mechanisms. Because it's just like seeing the problem, just like pushing it off to the side. And the problem goes, oh, no, you were supposed to deal with me. Now I'm bringing friends tomorrow. And then I'm going to
yeah,
bring more friends the next day until you are in a position that you have no choice but to deal with me.
yeah,
And how are you going to deal with this? It's going to be your choice to be broken or to step through this and figure out how to heal.
yeah. No, absolutely. And it's ironic that if we have a bad day and we're down in the dumps, if you have 2 or 3 beers, it's a depressant,
Yeah.
right? So you're just getting more depressed versus if you know how to deal with what's going on, the sadness, and uplift yourself. Maybe it is going out for a beer with a buddy and having a conversation and building a relationship on one beer, right? You're
Yeah.
having a time with your and that is good for our souls. Yeah, sure, it's extra calories, but but that's the cool thing about life is that we each have a different way to recenter ourselves or to look positive and not just dwell in it, but learn how to cope and learn how to thrive.
Yeah. And there's a permission, I think, that I'll, in my past experience in working with clients, is like, there's almost like we need that permission to be like, it's okay to ask for what we want and to stumble upon our way to getting there, but owning it and starting to really figure out how do I wear this? How do I become this happy life that I'm dreaming about and putting words to it? What's actually behind it is like a bunch of values and it's not so much like the things that I do, but it's the person I want to be. And I
Yeah,
think maybe that too is like a real big distinction is like when you're able to start to be like the person I want to be is somebody who's in connection with awesome people like Greg and his crew, be like, then you're going to start to be in connection. And sometimes having a beer is that vehicle to a connection. Moderation, please bring the moderation component
absolutely.
to it, but focus on it as the thing that you can use to connect on to maybe get out of your house, get out of your office, get out of whatever environment you're in, and shift the environment and be around people that help lift you up and want to see good for you.
Yeah. And I think that's so great how you work with clients that might not know where they're headed, personal or work or whatnot. Maybe their head's just in a fog, right? But you're helping
Yeah.
them see the brighter side of life and who they want to be and with hard work. And sometimes it's not even hard work. It's learning different ways to to cope with life. And one of them that I found is going and talking to a counselor, a therapy. You're a coach, right? If people are struggling with their lives, they go and talk to you. If if I'm on a hockey team, you have a coach, right? Because he can see the whole ice. When you're just on the ice, all you can see is you and the problems that you have. But when a coach is standing back and watching game tape, whether it's hockey, we have a coach, or even switch it. If if you're not feeling well, you go to a doctor. Don't sit there and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
You need to reach out. And I don't know who coined the phrase, but it's always hard to read the label on a jar when you're sitting inside.
It's interesting. I just had a guest on my one of my latest shows that used that
Yeah.
metaphor as well, is how he had worked with a coach and one of his big things was like taking ownership and he used to blame people a lot. And the
Mhm.
coach used that whole thing. You're in the jar. I'm telling you what's on the label right now. Do you
Yeah.
want to pull this label off and deal with it or not? This is going to be your choice.
Yeah.
But right now, this is where you are in your jar. And I think it's an important metaphor to understand. It's just like I hear on the skating, the hockey one is like you're skating to the puck. Like you don't necessarily know what's going on behind you or totally up in front of you. You're playing to that play in that moment, but being able to take that meta view and go, hey, let's watch the tape. Let's see what was going on. How can we now adjust this? You talked about changing things. You don't have to change a lot. But if you
Yeah.
don't like what you're getting, make a little shift today. It's like, how can I do 1% better than what I was doing yesterday? Is it
Yeah.
going for a run? Is it like a dress? Is it maybe stepping into that conversation you're avoiding? Or is it admitting that I'm lost in the fog and I don't know which way is up right now? And
Yeah.
some friends can go, oh, we got you. What about over
Yeah.
here? We see where your light's going. Maybe you just can't. So it's all these little things that start to add up and compound and really start that process moving forward,
Yeah.
moving directionally. And it's not just forward, it's what's the direction you want to go? And then are you taking those steps to get there? And are you surrounding yourself with the right supports to help you go, hey, we can see you moving. You might not be able to understand your movement yet, but we can see it.
Yeah.
Trust us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And back to that hockey analogy, Gretzky once said, I never went where the puck was, I went where it was going to be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And by having our friends or our coach or our therapist saying, hey, have you thought about this? Don't chase the puck, chase the play.
Yeah.
Because the end goal is scoring the goal. And if you're always focused on the puck, you're not going to see the four other guys around you. And how
Yeah.
do we go there? And like you said, it might not be forward all the time, right? There might be a block in our lives, our jobs, or our relationships that can't be moved, right? So how do we go around it? How do we? It's like GPS on Google Maps, right? Reroute, rerouting.
It's constantly rerouting you. You'd be like, and the beauty of the GPS is it never gives you a hard time about missing your turn. It
Yeah,
just reroutes you.
yeah,
And that's an important component of it too. It's like you're gonna find obstacles that maybe you can't move because they're not your obstacles to move, but they're still in your path. What if it went, oh, I don't have to be shamed for this. I don't have to, this
yeah,
isn't a mistake. There's nothing wrong here. My GPS is just going to fire up and go, hey, we're going to take this next left instead of going straight. There's construction on this road. You can't do anything about the construction.
yeah,
Here we go, and back onto the main highway again.
yeah. No, that is so funny because the next day I drove back from Kelowna back to Walla, and I was going through Midway, and
Yeah.
I just driven, I hadn't crossed the border there, and I was my GPS. It was the quickest route, so said the map. I drove up to the border, and there's one dude. He's sitting there having coffee, sitting in a chair by himself. He walks up and he's like, "Where are you going?" And I hand him my passport and stuff, and I said I was just up visiting my dad in the hospital. And he's like, "Oh, how's your dad doing?" Like just
Yeah.
classic small town, right? And
Yeah.
so about 5 miles on the other side, on the U.S. side, there was road construction, and I was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to trust my GPS because I've never been on this road before." But it was probably about 5 or 6 miles of gravel, and in my head, I'm like, "This is stupid. I'm turning around and finding another way." And then I said, "You know what? I, Google Maps has always got me to where I'm going. I'm going to trust it." And about a mile after that, it went back onto the small lane highway. And as soon as I got on the highway, the internet crapped out. So I'm on this highway. I'm like, all right, let's trust the process. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's tough to do. I wanted to turn around. I'm like, but if I had turned around, it was another 3 hours, blah, blah, blah. Was I going to run out of gas? All that kind of stuff. So I love that. Trusting the process. Here's our goal. How do we get there? We get there by trusting the process, by listening to our friends, and by doing the work, like you said, the uncomfortable conversations. And I'm learning even at 50 that it's better to have an uncomfortable or tough conversation than waiting until something blows up and then it's a whole nother ball of wax.
Oh, 100% has been there. I'm 43.
Yeah.
I've avoided enough tough conversations that have eventually caught up with me to know that the quicker I get to it, even though it's just like, oh, I don't want to do this, I get it done. 9 times out of 10, it ends up being way better than what my brain
Oh,
catastrophized
absolutely, right?
this was going to be, right?
Absolutely.
And that 1 out of 10 times, I'm also starting to learn to trust in my own process myself to say, hey, I've gotten through all the other 1 out of 10s before.
Yeah,
This too shall pass.
yeah, yeah. No, and the more we do it, the easier it is, right? It's just like
Yeah,
going to the gym, right? The more days in a row that you work out, the easier it is, the more weight you can lift,
yeah,
um, and the better we feel.
yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast. I think it was Rob Dial. I don't know if he's a mindset coach.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, similar to what you do. And he was saying affirmation, right? Thinking about what life is going to be like. He said, but also there's the negative thinking as well too. And the example he said, maybe you're out of shape and your daughter's going to be married in 10 years or hopefully. That's what we want for our kids is love and joy and happiness. He said, but what if you think of, oh man, if I don't get in shape, what what are the ramifications of that? Are you going to walk her down the aisle? Are you going to be around?
Yeah.
And that really hit me. I was driving and I just started tearing up. I'm like, all right, Greg, I've not that I've struggled. I just don't think I've had the right motivation.
Yeah.
But that was last week, and every day since then, I've been on the treadmill twice, and I golf. I take the cart, I walk instead of the golf cart, and just eating better because I
Yeah.
had that thing got in my head. I'm like, man, I want to walk her down the aisle more than, hey, you look great, Greg. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny to think of the negative is can be motivating as well too if you channel it the right way. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yes. I think fear and negative viewing the negative side of it is an important component of that affirmation talk, right? I think Gary Vee speaks similar. He shares in the mornings a way that he leverages gratitude is, hey, I could be waking up and my family could not be here.
Yeah,
Oh, that would like how deeply that would suck. And then he flips that around, going, he goes and checks on them every morning. They're all here, and he's just like, has this place of gratitude for it. And what I loved about Rob's conversation on that podcast as well is like there, it's balancing the scale. It's like what would be great? Oh, I'd have more energy if I'm going to the gym. Like in Greg's comment here, I'm going to the gym. I have more energy. I'm happier. I can lift more. My body's stronger. I'm actually capable of more. What would happen if I don't?
yeah,
Oh, end story is you could die.
yeah,
If you're really unhealthy,
yeah,
you could die and miss out on all the opportunities and all the great moments yet to come in your family's life. That too is don't want that.
yeah,
Okay, now I know clearly what I don't want. And there's also that powering saying, what do I do want? Right? When we look at that negative side, it's, oh, I wouldn't get to walk her down the aisle. Yes. And the flip of that is like visualizing walking your daughter down the aisle and that happy day and being part of that is going, oh, yeah, that's going to drive me. And sometimes we need a little fire under our ass to get moving too. Is if I don't take care of my shit, maybe some other man is walking her down the aisle. Maybe no one is there to do that.
yeah,
So what am I going to do to say fuck that to the best of my ability?
yeah,
Now I'm
absolutely.
going to take ownership about what it is that I have to take ownership for. I have to take ownership for showing up. I have to take ownership for having the right motivations to get my butt out of bed. And guess what? I don't think there's been a single time I've gone to the gym in the morning that when I've woken up, I'm like, I'm excited to go do this, but I
Right?
do it anyways, right?
Yeah,
And by the time I leave the gym, I'm I feel great and I'm very happy that I went to it, be it for a VR workout or for hitting the gym or playing golf or moving my body. I'm always happier afterwards. And I heard this comment the other day on a podcast, and the gentleman was using again the gym as a metaphor. He's, you know what the heaviest weight in the gym is?
yeah.
Opening the door. Because it's just like, I don't want to do this. That's the heaviest component because once you're in there and you're starting to move and that's when you're building that momentum. Motivation comes as a result of going, F it, I'm going to go anyways. I'm
Yeah,
going to still do this. I might not feel like it, but I want the results. So I guess feeling it isn't as important as we sometimes think it is. It's like, how bad do you want that result? And how bad do you not want the flip side of that coin?
Yeah.
If you want it bad enough, then it doesn't matter if you're like feeling it. You're going to go do it because that's important.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome. Hey, before we wrap it up here, I know you're a coach, and we met through during COVID through Canadian Health, mental health,
Yeah.
right? We have mutual friends there, and we have mutual friends in the speaking coaching world. Where can people get a hold of you, Gene, if
Sure.
if they are
So
struggling, whether it's happiness or jobs, relationship, if they want a better path and someone to help them?
yeah, so I'm actually spending a lot of time on Instagram right now, as well on LinkedIn. You can also, I have two podcasts, one on any podcast platform that you listen to, The Rawl and Gene Show, The Power of Coaching. So we release a new episode on audio every week. We're also do a lot, we record it live on YouTube. So if you want to come check us out there, the other place on YouTube, I have a video cast called Conversations With, where I talk with business leaders, entrepreneurs, as we talk about the challenges they've gone through and what it's like facing that, sharing it, and being on the other side of it. So I've heard it being referred to as business therapy. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's definitely a great conversation.
Yeah, no, and I've listened to both. They're both great. We'll put those in the show notes so people can check it out. But thank you so much. You made me happy today.
Oh, thanks, Ray.
Even that kind. Hey, I believe in you. I'm cheering you on, and it was so good to meet in person. And I can't wait till the next time. So thanks for doing what you do. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. And thank you very much for having me on your show today.